lecture and presentation. I want to allow one quick question, but I take the privilege as the chairman to make this question to you. You mentioned that Herbert Hoover saying about piecing in and piecing out, which is very astute. Although the language is crude, but very astute. And you mentioned that connection that Iran, which is a source of concern for Israel, better be engaged and tamed. I think that was your term. Do you think Iran regime on a mission from God can be tamed?
To be honest, I had another country in mind, which is much closer to the neighborhood than Iran, and which has been kept, has been excluded from energy and other processes in the Eastern Med. But since you asked me about Iran, we had that discussion yesterday in a closed meeting. I'm not convinced that Iran's foreign policy is based only on ideological basis. I think there is the logic of a great power which feels its time has come and is seeking more influence in the region. Now, this doesn't mean I'm justifying any actions, but I'm saying if the discussion is about interests, then this is a good basis for negotiating with the other side.
Thank you. Please, I don't want to develop. We will have time for cursing each other and screaming and yelling at the end. Iran, you must understand, is a very emotional point in Israel. When I mention Iran, I won't compare it to the 30s, but there is a feeling here. So our next speaker will be Mr. George Horiates. He is the Supreme Secretary of the Order of the AHEPA, which is a Greek-American organization. He is attorney in Philadelphia, an archon in ecumenical patriarchate in his country, and he will replacing, instead of the nominal speaker, Basil Mosiadis, so he'll speak instead of him. Please, Mr. Horiates.
How's everybody doing right now? No one's asleep yet. I want to thank the organizers. I want to thank all of you. I think you should give yourselves a significant thank you, a round of applause for putting through all this. And by the way, I want to thank those upstairs that have provided the coffee all day long. But the thank you is for the opportunity to share a few observations on the topic of promoting Mediterranean awareness in the U.S., and that's from the perspective of an elected position in AHEPA, and from the perspective of a civic-minded manner, from the manner, much like B'nai B'rith, modeled in many ways with the fraternal lodge system, with a mass appeal supporting common ideas and supporting your homeland, your motherland, and not necessarily a governmentally endorsed manner. And in approaching the topic, what stood out to me is how the Mediterranean is being promoted in the United States exists in two distinct parts. First in Washington, and secondly throughout the rest of the United States. Why the need to promote Mediterranean awareness? After all, that's what you have been doing today, and that's what we all have been doing in our respective spheres of influence, whether it's Cyprus, Israel, and or Greece. We're all trusted allies of the West, and we have proven that time in and time out again. Our issues are similar. We have concerns in Greece with regards to the immigration issues, security issues, countries that are similar in that they're being pushed on all borders and from all angles. And we've heard that all day long. And in fact, you've lived it. But the Beltway needs to be reminded that the radical fundamentalism reached our shores in the United States and reached a Beltway years ago, and most recently with a synagogue bombing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In all regards, the Mediterranean awareness and its promotion is not a new reality. This is not new news, and past is prologue. The promotion must include many things, but also it must include religious. In Psalm 137, the song of the exiled children of Israel was sung by the waters of Babylon. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? And if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. And if I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my highest joys. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, the promotion that we are talking about in terms of the Mediterranean awareness in the United States must have as its crucial underpinning that we have an unshakable Judeo-Christian underpinning in the United States. And that is something that we often undersell. We often do not drive that point home to our legislative and elected officials in the United States. On Capitol Hill, the Congressional Hellenic-Israeli Alliance, a bipartisan body in the United States House of Representatives, born of the emergence of the trilateral relationship, is co-chaired by Congressman Gus Balarakis, surprise, a Greek, and Congressman Ted Deutsch. And this Congressional Hellenic-Israeli Alliance does an excellent job of promoting awareness of the challenges facing the Eastern Mediterranean and the benefits that the region can yield through the trilateral partnership, and any effort to broaden its relationship in a multilateral fashion with any like-minded nations. For example, this Congressional Hellenic-Israeli Alliance has written to the Secretary of State urging the United States' engagement in support of energy exploration and exploitation. This is not a Hellenic nationalistic view, but the following comment is in fact the rule of law. We also urge the United States engagement in support of those lawful explorations from outside threats, namely to respect the rule of law, and namely from Turkey. Also in the energy space, the Congressional Alliance has held briefings for key stakeholders, such as the Cypriot Energy Minister and representatives from Noble Energy, to elevate awareness. Regarding security, the Congressional Alliance has backed legislation calling on the EU to designate Hezbollah as a terrorist organization, given its threats to Israel and the threat it has posed to Cyprus on record. Clearly, the Mediterranean is on the radar of the State Department, thanks in large part, of course, to the prospects for energy development that the Eastern Mediterranean may potentially provide, and for the potential security like-minded democracies that we have already heard about, Greece, Cyprus, and Israel, which they can provide alternatives to less stable and undemocratic nations in the region. And I know the message we have heard in meetings with the State Department and stated publicly is for the desire of the United States to present in Greece, Cyprus, and Israel dialogue, not just on the energy front, but also on the security front. So in terms of the promotion, what AHEPA does, what AHI does, what you do at B'nai B'rith, what we can do is a better job, perhaps is promoting awareness among the grassroots in the United States, outside of the Washington, D.C. Beltway. And that is something we can discuss together here and in the future as we collaborate between our organizations and that collaboration flourishes. However, I will point out that now that multinational U.S. energy firm giant ExxonMobil is present in Cyprus's exclusive economic zone and is expected to drill before the year's end, if not already, this is drawing the ire of President Erdogan, and I believe we will see awareness of what is transpiring in the Eastern Mediterranean, spreading to a more mainstream outside of the Beltway audience. This is because we're dealing with a household name, not because we're dealing with Greeks or Cypriots. We're dealing with ExxonMobil. The United States sure will back then. A NATO alliance member in Turkey that has been in the news solely on this issue alone, and for dubious reasons, butting heads in the Eastern Med. And furthermore, this past September, in our organization, we have also had in Thessaloniki a TIFF, a trade show, the International Trade Fair in Thessaloniki. HEPA was also responsible for assisting the United States with regards to that show. We brought many corporations from around the world to assist in what we call an outreach to influence those organizations and mega corporations that need to be influenced. I can tell you that collaboration between our organizations needs to continue. In addition to this combined Hellenic-Israeli committee caucus that we have at the United States, where we reach out to our elected officials, we also have, as part of the HEPA, what we call Capitol Hill Day. And in Capitol Hill Day, we reach out to our elected officials, whether it's in the legislative branch, whether it's in the House of Representatives, whether it's in the Senate, and we reach out to them on issues that we have. I know you do the same. We reach out to them with regards to what we call a congressional scorecard. We actually keep grades, not just on the issues of energy, not just on the issues of Cyprus, not just on human rights violations by other actors, but on many issues of concern. And we release those grades, the grading system, to our membership. We release the grading system to our community. We release that grading system to all the individuals that we believe are within our sphere of influence. And I think perhaps we can work together. We can develop that same program, congressional scorecard, by and between the Congressional Hellenic-Israeli Alliance, encompassing all of our issues, grading all of these individuals to try to maximize the influence that we can have in our respective and joint positions. And that would be my position. I think, my yaya, we call her my grandmother, used to tell me that when the fingers, when they work alone, they're weak. When you ball them up, they're very strong. They're powerful. And if we continue to progress and work together, we become powerful together and as well. And I think we make an impact. Together, I ask that our most trusted Israeli friends to think of this collaboration in terms of what I call the Flight of Icarus. I come from a small island right off the Turkish coast. And if you've never heard of the tale of Icarus, I'm sure you have. Most of you are aware of Greek mythology. Ikaria is the island that my parents came from. That's it. They live a long life. Thank you. I need that. After what I ate last night and what I've been doing in Jerusalem. But Icarus continued to soar. His father Daedalus was looking at him and he was fearful. But he continued because it was the mankind that was inspired by pushing the edge, inspired by daring to dream the impossible, inspired by continuing to soar and fly. Don't be limited. Let's work together. Let's continue to soar and fly in our relationship together. Thank you.